Valkyrie Domination Chapter 1, Rebirth. Chapter 1 Rebirth. Valkyrie Calendar 2216. The highest land of Tianwu continent Wuyu. The black wind roared frantically, and the sky was torn open with huge wounds. The hideous horror, swallowing and flashing black void cracks, like an indefatigable wild beast, swallowing everything it can swallow. This is one of the 7 forbidden places in Tianwu continent, located in Death Canyon in Wuyu. In Death Canyon, the terrifying void storm rages all year round and never stops. It has swallowed the lives of thousands of powerful people for tens of thousands of years. It is like a meat grinder, strangling all the lives that enter it. It is inaccessible here, and even the most confident strong will not come here. The mighty void storm is enough to easily tear a 9-day martial emperor strong into pieces. Why? Shengguan Xier, Feng Xiaoyu, why are you betraying me? Qin Chen was stained with blood, standing on the cliff in front of Death Canyon, looking angrily at the man and woman in front of him. His eyes were full of endless resentment and anger, a heart, pain like a knife. Qin Chen. A generation of legends in Tianwu continent, 9th rank emperor-level medicine alchemist, 8th level imperial bloodline master, and 8th level martial emperor. He has been an orphan since he was a child. But he broke this shackle alive. Starting from the bloodline master, he changed his fate against the sky. With the power of the bloodline, he climbed to the top and walked out an unprecedented path and became the first person in the ages. At the age of 26, Qin Chen drove into the Tianjin mountain alone, walked through a 9-tier formation in 49 days, and became the only formation mage to pass the Tianjin mountain for 1,000 years. At the age of 28, he broke through the 9-rank medicine refining emperor and served as the honorary elder of the mainland pharmacist palace. 30 years old, with the accomplishments of the 8th order bloodline emperor, even the top 10 bloodline emperors of the bloodline tower, without any failure, famous for the mainland. Become the supreme legend of the mainland. He has a beauty named Shengguan Xier, who is known as a beauty in mainland China. Over the past 10 years, life and death have been together, and Qin Chen has done everything he has to make Shengguan Xier's cultivation base advance by leaps and bounds, becoming the Emperor of 9 Heavens, and a great story on the mainland. He has a brother named Feng Xiaoyu. Over the past 10 years, Qin Chen has done everything he can to help him build the Xianyuan Empire, a famous mainland. But when he helped Hong Yan and his confidant both stand on the top of the mainland, they both betrayed him together. That day, in his sleep, Shengguan Xier slammed down the killer and pierced Qin Chen's body with the imperial soldier he refined. At the same time, Feng Xiaoyu, who had already ambushed by the side, broke into his palace directly and made a strong shot. 2 great masters of the 9 Heavens martial emperor, and an 8th order martial emperor, took pains to kill him. Qin Chen was caught off guard and was seriously injured. He broke out of the palace all the way and fled for 3 days and 3 nights. But in the end, they were hunted down to Death Canyon by 2 people. At this time, Qin Chen was exhausted, his meridians were all broken, and he was dying, no longer able to fight. But he didn't understand why these 2 people, whom he regarded as closest to him, would join hands to betray him. Why? Shengguan Xier, who looks beautiful and looks like a fairy in the painting, faces Qin Chen's unwilling inquiry, smiling and snuggling in Feng Xiaoyu's arms, and Feng Xiaoyu's big hand touches Shengguan Xier directly waist. Qin Chen's eyes widened, with an incredible expression on his face. Under the shock of his heart, he spouted a mouthful of blood and hissed, "You too," unexpectedly. Shengguan Xier laughed mockingly, looked at Qin Chen sadly, and sneered, "Before I knew you, I was in love with Xiaoyu. The reason I was with you was just to use you. Do you think I really like you?" "Ha ha ha, wrong." Shengguan Xier looked at Qin Chen bitterly, "Every time I am with you, I feel sick. If it weren't for you to give me feather brings benefits, so I don't bother to talk with you. In the past 10 years, your every move has been in my plan with Xiaoyu. In the past few years, you have been obsessed with cultivation and medicine, and you often stay closed, giving me many opportunities to get along with Xiaoyu. We have long agreed that when we become Emperor Wutian of the 9 Heavens, it will be the day you die. Finally, with your help, I became the 9 Heavens Wudi, and Xiaoyu established the Xianyuan Empire. We can finally be together openly. This is why. Shangguan Shi'er laughed. His laughter was full of wanton arrogance, resentment and indifference, so different from the gentle and virtuous Shangguan Shi'er Qin Chen knew. Qin Chen's face was like ashes. For 10 years, this woman had deliberately tried to get close to him. It's ridiculous to myself, but I don't realize it, I only know what I have done sincerely. Unexpectedly, the red sleeves and scent of the past 10 years turned out to be just a scam. Qin Chen's heart is like 1,000 arrows piercing through it. More, it is hate. That familiar face is so unfamiliar at this moment, and even that beautiful face has become ugly. Good brother, now you know why. Feng Xiaoyu raised her mouth and smiled treacherously. In order to achieve this goal, I endured for 10 years and gave my woman my hand to you. Whenever I look at you and her tangled together, I swear, wait until the time is right. We'll surely kill you and make you lose everything, and your wealth, status, and women are all mine. Fortunately, it's all over. Feng Xiaoyu's eyes were full of naked murderous intent. He stared at the storage bracelet on Qin Chen's right wrist, showing greed, and said with a triumphant smile, "Don't worry, after you die, everything about you, they will accept it, especially the things you get in the Forbidden Land, and your woman." Feng Xiaoyu smiled wickedly, and his slender hand directly stroked Shangguan Shi'er's plump buttocks. The couple giggled in front of Qin Chen. Qin Chen smiled sadly with cold eyes. The two people whom they regarded as close relatives had been lying to him, using his time in retreat to practice, devouring everything about him, but he was ridiculously unaware. This ended up like this. Qin Chen smiled. He laughed at this pair of dogs and men, despicable and shameless. Also laugh at yourself, stupid idiot. With a smile, 2 lines of blood and tears fell from the corner of his eyes. He stood up slowly, eyes full of hatred, staring at the two in front of him fiercely. He hates that if given the opportunity, he will definitely kill the opponent. But there is no chance. Qin Chen looked at the violent void crack behind him, jumped in the frightened eyes of the pair of dog men and women, and was swallowed instantly by the endless void crack. Before he died, Qin Chen had cold eyes and a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Want his stuff, next life. The wind howled and the void shattered. On the cliff, only the furious roar of Feng Xiaoyu and Shangguan Shi'er echoed for a long time. Tianwu Continent, Great Qi State, Dingwu Prince's Mansion. Shangguan Shi'er, Feng Xiaoyu, you guys and dogs, I hate it. A young man suddenly awakened from the gilt bed, and sat up angrily. His anger was wide, his eyes looked like cold stars, and a cloud of unforgettable hatred burst out from it, dripping with cold sweat. On the bed, the young man clenched his hands tightly, letting his nails go deep into his palms, and there was pain in his heart, but he didn't even notice it. It was a long time before he came back to his senses, staring blankly at the antique bed and eaves in front of him, staring blankly. What's the matter, isn't he already dead? A strong pain suddenly came from Qin Chen's mind, so that he roared in pain. Accompanied by the pain is a new memory. I was born again. Immediately, Qin Chen opened his eyes suddenly, and after understanding what had happened, even if he was the top powerhouse on the continent, he had an unbelievable look at this moment. In memory. Today, it is 2516 in the martial god calendar, and 300 years have passed since his death in his previous life. 300 years, the vicissitudes of life, the situation changes. The former Xianyuan Empire, under Feng Xiaoyu's expansion, became the first dynasty of the mainland, the world was powerful, and the title of Xianyuan the Great. The former Shangguan Shi'er established the Misty Palace, the first name is the Empress Lingbo, which is admired by hundreds of millions of people. Relying on the magical pill that Qin Chen left behind, the two of them have become the supreme existences in the mainland, and the entire continent will tremble 3 times with a stomping. But Qin Chen was reborn in the small remote country of the mainland. God made me live again, Shangguan Shi'er, Feng Xiaoyu, you are waiting, Qin Chen is back, your nightmare is coming, one day, Qin Chen will personally set foot on the martial realm and get everything back. Qin Chen clenched his fists and swears to heaven in this simple and rich room. That strong killing intent turned into an invisible whirlwind over this room, which lasted for a long time. Chenner. With a sudden creak, the door opened, and a beautiful woman in a clean robe and a hosta anxiously walked in. Seeing Qin Chen, who was awakened on the bed, a trace of joy suddenly appeared in her anxious eyes. Color. Great, Chenner, you finally woke up, my mother is worried about it. With tears on the beautiful woman's long eyelashes, she hugged Qin Chen and cried loudly, but in her crying, she was filled with joy, and the warm embrace wrapped Qin Chen and made him wake up. He was full of hatred in his heart, but a hint of warmth rose inexplicably. The beautiful woman's name is Qin Yueqi, the daughter of King Dingwu of the Great Qi Kingdom and the mother of Qin Chen. The original owner of this body was actually called Qin Chen, because he fought with people at the Star Academy in the royal capital, and fell into a martial arts platform, smashed his head, and fell into a coma for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, the body was accidentally taken over by Qin Chen's soul 300 years ago, and he had the second life. Chenner, you've been in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights. You scared your mother to death. From now on, your mother will never allow you to act so recklessly. I hear you. If you are gone, how can you let your mother live alone? The beautiful woman stroked Qin Chen's thin cheeks, her beautiful eyes showed earnest concern. Qin Chen looked at the beautiful woman, and an unprecedented touch appeared in his soul. Qin Chen in the previous life was just an orphan. He didn't expect that God would give him a mother when he was to live his life again. In the original memory of this body, his mother, Qin Yueqi, treated him extremely well, and it can be described as meticulous, and the relationship between mother and child is very harmonious. After Qin Chen was reborn, his soul merged with the soul of the original body, and he naturally possessed all the emotions that this body originally had. Seeing the worried and crying beautiful woman in front of him, Qin Chen felt excited in his heart and blurted out, "Mother, my child will never be reckless in the future," making my mother worried. After saying this, Qin Chen felt as if a stone had been put down in his heart, and his soul was relaxed for a while, and the trace of that had been left behind had also completely disappeared. Qin Chen knew that this was the original Qin Chen's consciousness, and after knowing his thoughts, it completely dissipated. From now on, there is only one consciousness left in this body, that is, Qin Chen. Valkyrie Domination Chapter 2, Mother. Chapter 2 Mother. That's good. The beautiful woman looked at Qin Chen with a gentle expression, as if only her son was left in her eyes. Chenner, tell your mother, how did you fight with the son of Wei Chiho's family? Did someone deliberately frame you? Qin Yueqi frowned and looked at Qin Chen with worry on her face. No, it's my boy who wants to fight him myself. Qin Chen bowed his head. His eyes were cold. The fact is that Wei Zhen insulted him as a wild species at the academy and called his mother a bitch. He came to the stage to fight with him when he was angry. It now appears that this should be a conspiracy against him. Because, as soon as Wei Zhen came to power, he was murdered. If he tells his mother the truth, he will find Wei Chiho's family desperately because of his character, but now his mother's situation is also very difficult. When Qin Yueqi was young, she was known as the #1 beauty in the Great Qi Kingdom, and she was the object of secret admiration of countless princes and princes in the capital. The matchmaker who proposed marriage broke the threshold with gifts. Even today's saints have heard of Qin Yueqi's beauty and intended to accept her for the concubine. But at this moment, Qin Yueqi suddenly ran away from home, wandered the world, and disappeared from the sight of everyone. 3 years later, Qin Yueqi returned, with Qin Chen who was just born, and returned to Qin's house. This incident caused a sensation in the entire capital. Unmarried childbirth is a matter of extreme taboo and shame in the entire Tianwu continent. It is a matter of disobedience to women's morals. In some remote and barbarous places, it is even more necessary to soak the pig cage. At that time, the Qin family was so angry that they almost didn't kill Qin Yueqi. It was Dingwu King Qin Batian, who was also Qin Chen's grandfather. He rejected all opinions and took Qin Yueqi and Qin Chen in the name of the Qin family's blood. But the people in the entire Dingwu palace looked at Qin Yueqi and Qin Chen coldly, thinking that Qin Yueqi was a shame to the entire Qin family. So Qin Yueqi's life in the Qin family was very bad. Otherwise, Qin Chen would not be in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights, but no doctor came to check. Chen'er, although you haven't awakened your blood this time, it doesn't matter. You still have a chance in the future. Don't fight on impulse and fight with others. Even if you can't become a strong person, that's fine. Mother will always protect you. Qin Yueqi looked at Qin Chen, who was weak on the bed, and sighed slightly. Her nose was sour again. Chen'er has such a strong character. If he can't solve this knot, I'm afraid something will happen in the future. No awakening blood. Qin Chen learned something instantly by fusing the memories of this body. It turns out that the master of this body has a good martial arts talent, and with excellent results, he was admitted to the Tianqing Academy of the First Academy of Daqi State. It was just that during the several blood awakening ceremonies of the academy, he failed to awaken the blood. A few days ago, the academy awakened the students again, and Qin Chen still had no blood awakening. In Tianwu continent, blood is respected, and without awakening blood, one cannot become a true powerhouse. The previous owner of this body was deeply shocked after he learned the news. He wanted to become stronger in order to change the situation of him and his mother in the palace, but he did not expect that God would make such a joke with him. Under the shock, he was depressed and unhappy every day. That's why Qin Yueqi thought that Qin Chen's duel with Wei Jin was because he was in a bad mood without awakening his blood. Mother, don't worry, such a setback will not break the child. Qin Chen felt Qin Yueqi's concern, his eyes softened, and he smiled slightly. He was not comforting Qin Yueqi. There is no awakening bloodline, for the 8th order bloodline emperor of his previous life, it is really nothing. Qin Chen's brilliant smile warmed Qin Yueqi's heart, and said with relief, "So, mother is relieved." Qin Yueqi was just about to say something, suddenly. Bang bang bang. Someone was knocking on the door, and the sound was so loud, almost kicking with his feet. Qin Yueqi hurriedly opened the door. A maid wearing a silver rat leather coat stepped into the room. "Miss, why did it take so long to open the door?" The maid said, dissatisfied. Although she was calling the lady, she didn't look respectful at all. "Rouge, Chen'er has just woke up and his body is still very weak. Keep your voice quieter, so don't disturb Chen'er," Qin Yueqi said. When Yanji heard this, he glanced at Qin Chen on the bed unexpectedly, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "It turns out that Master Chen woke up. That's really congratulations." She said congratulations, but there was no smile on her face. Her eyes were cold, as if Qin Chen owed her money. This maid named Yanji was one of the personal maids of Qin Chen's aunt Madame Zhao. The Qin family is a loyal family. His ancestors have been military commanders for several generations. They fought the battlefield for the great Qi state and made outstanding achievements. In the generation of Qin Chen's grandfather, Qin Batian, his momentum reached its peak, and he was named Dingwu King by the king of Qi, and he opened a house. And Qin Baishan's son, Qin Yuanhong, Qin Chen's uncle, received blessing from his ancestors, and was granted the title of an Pingho by the king of Qi, and was in charge of Dingwu Palace. Therefore, Qin Chen's great-aunt became the mistress of the current Dingwu Palace. Just. Mrs. Zhao, Qin Chen's eldest aunt, has always been extremely disgusted with Qin Chen and Qin Yueqi, thinking that the two of them have tarnished the reputation of Dingwu Prince's mansion, and tried every means to drive them out. "What are you doing here?" Qin Chen asked Rouge coldly. "Master Chen, stop being passionate, I'm not here to find you." Yanji glanced at Qin Chen in surprise. Qin Chen didn't dare to talk to her like this before. Why did he become so courageous after he recovered his life this time? "Miss, my wife guessed that you are here with Master Chen. It is true that you have not forgotten the agreement with your wife." Qin Yueqi's body trembled, a trace of humiliation flashed across his eyes, and his face seemed a little pale. She glanced at Qin Chen, covered him with a silk quilt, stood up and said softly, "Chen'er, mother, go out, take a good rest. After that, turn around and walk out." What kind of eyes? Qin Chen naturally saw Qin Yueqi's trembling at that moment, and felt a little bad in his heart, frowning. "Mother, where are you going?" "I'll go with you." Qin Yueqi paused, turned his head, touched Qin Chen's face with warm hands, and said with a smile, "Silly boy, mother is in this palace. If you don't go out, you are still afraid that your mother will be caught in the palace. The bullying is unsuccessful. Just when you wake up, don't catch a cold. Take care of your body. Mother will come back when she goes." Qin Chen frowned and said, "No, mother, tell the child, you and Madame Zhao have agreed something." Qin Yueqi's face was hesitant, not knowing how to speak. Aside. Rouge said impatiently, "A half-dead person who asks so much what to do, I will tell you directly. Your mother promised our wife to meet with Prince Qi today. Now Prince Qi has arrived in the living room and waited for her to pass." "What, Zhao Qirui? Zhao Feng, you bitch, you actually forced your mother to see this harlot." No one in the whole king knew that Zhao Qirui was the most absurd prince in the great Qi kingdom. He wandered around the place of wind and moon all the year round. There were groups of wives and concubines. The mansion was full of singers and dancers. Zhao Qirui has always coveted his mother's beauty. He has visited the door several times, but was rejected by his mother. Who knows, Zhao Feng invited this old thief to his home. Qin Chen stared at Rouge fiercely, with two cold lights in his eyes, and said angrily, "And you cheap maid, get out of here." "What did you say?" Rouge was trembling with anger and pointed at Qin Chen with her fingers, but was deterred by Qin Chen's gaze. She did not dare to speak, but said angrily at Qin Yueqi, "Miss, are you such a godson? And you and Wang Yi, what happened? But you promised it in one go. Don't you want to regret it?" "My mother promised." Qin Chen was shocked and looked at his mother. "How can that be? In my memory, my mother was very disgusted with Zhao Qirui, and was even more troubled by his pursuit. How could you agree to meet him?" He wanted to hear a negative answer from his mother, but saw Qin Yueqi's body shake. He lingered. "Chen'er, you just woke up, take a rest first, don't hurt your body, that's not good, mother just sees him, it won't do anything." In the end, Qin Yueqi said with difficulty. Qin Chen looked at Qin Yueqi in disbelief, and said anxiously, "Mother, why? You don't know Zhao Qirui, you don't know if you go out to see him, it's like a sheep's mouth. Why? Master Chen, do you still have the face to ask why?" Yan Ji looked at Qin Chen mockingly, "You are fighting with people, unconscious, and seeing that you can't live, it's your good mother outside our wife. Kneeled all night, and begged her to give the god of return. Mrs. Zhao was kind and agreed to Missy's request. You still have the face to ask why. If I were you, I would have been hit and killed here." "Shut up." Qin Yueqi looked at Rouge abruptly, and said angrily, "Ms. Zhao promised me not to tell this matter, you dare to talk nonsense." Looking at the angry mother, Qin Chen felt a pain in his heart. He finally understood. It turned out that the mother agreed to Zhao Feng to see Zhao Qirui in order to get back to the gods to save himself. Return to God pill. It is only a second-grade pill, worth only a few thousand silver coins. But the mother gave up her dignity for this recovery pill. Qin Chen's heart was shocked, and tears rolled in his eyes. He got up from the bed, grabbed Qin Yueqi who was about to leave, gritted his teeth and said, "Mother, we are here, no one will see you, don't worry. From today onwards, I will never let my mother kiss you again. Any hardship will not let you meet Zhao Qirui's lustful bastard." Qin Yueqi's body was shaken, tears flickering in her beautiful eyes looked at Qin Chen. Qin Chen looked at Rouge coldly, eyes like a sharp knife, and said coldly, "As for you, get out of here now." Valkyrie Domination Chapter 3, Mrs. Zhao. Chapter 3 Mrs. Zhao. "Little bastard, dare you yell at me?" A layer of anger quickly climbed on Rouge's face, and his whole body was shaking with anger, and even the "little bastard" was scolded. In the palace, many servants called him a little when discussing Qin Chen privately, but when facing Qin Chen, basically no one dared to call it that way. After all, Qin Yueqi is also the daughter of King Dingwu and the eldest of the Qin family. But when Yanji was angry, she couldn't care about anything. She pointed Qin Chen with her finger, and said with a mocking expression, "I call you Master Chen, you really think you are a master, I am." Qin Yueqi's face turned pale, looking at Rouge angrily and said, "Rouge, what is your name, Chen'er?" Remember your identity, just a maid. Yeah, miss, did you put your score to me? Rouge looked at Qin Yueqi coldly, and sneered with confidence, Miss, don't jump out in a hurry. Madam had expected you to be trustworthy. I'm staying, come here, take the eldest lady to the living room for me, don't let the lady and the distinguished guests wait too long. Boom. As soon as Rouge's voice fell, the door of the room was kicked open. 2 guards from the Qin family walked in from the door and quickly came to Qin Yueqi. Miss, come with us. The 2 guards raised their heads and looked at Qin Yueqi coldly, with a hint of greed passing deep in their eyes, and they were going to pull Qin Yueqi. Qin Yueqi was born with beauty and a country full of beauty. Although these years have not been good, his stunning appearance has become more and more fresh and refined. Which man from the Qin family talked about the eldest lady, not coveting, and fascinated? In this case, a little bit of oil, it seems that no one can tell, right? I see who dares to touch my mother. Qin Chen quickly took a sword from the wall. Tsang. The long sword is unsheathed. He took a step forward and stood in front of Qin Yueqi, with his long sword standing obliquely. 2 icy rays of cold light shot from his eyes, like sharp blades falling on the 2 guards. An inexplicable aura bloomed from Qin Chen. The 2 guards only felt cold all over, as if they were being stared at by the of death. A cold air rushed from the ghost vertebrae to the sky, causing a layer of goosebumps all over the body. Breathing became difficult, and the movements of the hands were also as a lag. What happened? The 2 guards looked at each other and felt unbelievable. At this time, Qin Chen's appearance and aura had not changed, but they were inexplicably feared. It seems that if you don't obey him, you will encounter a nightmare. The 2 couldn't help looking at Rouge. You 2 rubbish, one Qin Chen frightened you. Don't forget, who is in charge of this family, and if you don't bring the eldest lady to the living room, Madam blames it, can you afford it? If the Rouge gas didn't hit it, how these 2 guys were getting frightened by the little Qin Chen. The 2 guards also felt that their faces were dull, and they were actually frightened by Qin Chen. Although Qin Chen is a young master, he is not as good as an ordinary housekeeper in terms of status, and he has always been timid, even a chicken dare not kill. 1. If this spreads out, how will they still be in the Qin mansion in the future? Thinking of this, one of the guards immediately snorted and said coldly, Master Chen, please take care of yourself. I am waiting for Madame Zhao's order to take the young lady to the living room. If Master Chen dares to stop, I will stop. Blame the 2 of us for being impolite. Unexpectedly, Qin Chen stood motionless, with a long sword standing in front of him, with cold eyes, and said every word, if you don't want your life, try moving my mother. His voice seemed to pop out of Joyo Hell, making the footsteps of the 2 guards stagnate again. Qin Chen looked at Rouge again, with a stern voice and said, and you, arrogant and domineering, dare to be arrogant in front of my mother, believe it or not, I will exile you for 3,000 miles and become an official prostitute. Rouge's complexion became stiff. If there is a real trouble, Mrs. Zhao may be fine, but their servants and guards will never end well. Oh, who is going to exile whom? A harsh sound suddenly sounded, and then a series of footsteps came from outside the door. A group of servants in brocade robes stepped into the room first, standing on both sides, followed by a graceful and elegant middle-aged woman in palace costumes walking in from the crowd. This person is wearing a gold-stranded cloud robe, a red agate coral jade hairpin on his head, 4 or 5 gemstone rings on his 10 slender fingers, gold and silver, so he is not rich. Beside him, there was a middle-aged man with a wretched appearance, a bloated figure, and a very wealthy dress. As soon as he came in, his eyes fell on Qin Yueqi's body, his squinted eyeballs turned straight, only his mouth did not fall. Hawatsi. Lady. When Yanji saw this person, his previous arrogant expression suddenly faded, his face turned pale, and his eyes were a little horrified and bent down. This person is the mistress of the Qin family, Zhao Feng and Mrs. Zhao. Next to her, is the notorious merry prince of Daqi Qi Wang Zhao Qirui. Madame Zhao took a cold look at Rouge and snorted coldly, I can't do a little thing well, how did I teach you in the past? Rouge hurriedly knelt on the ground in fright, and said with a pale face, the slave and maid are incompetent, please madam to punish me. Go away first, shamelessly. Yes, ma'am. Rouge hurriedly stepped aside, trembling, looking at Qin Chen bitterly, but sneered in her heart, "Ha, little beast, now the madam is here, how arrogant you are." Madame Zhao looked at Qin Chen holding a long sword, and said coldly, unexpectedly, "My nephew has been in a coma for a few days, and he has become so courageous. Not only does he dare to kill him, but also exile my people for 3,000. Here, as an official prostitute, really ambitious. People who don't know thought it was the eldest son of my Qin mansion who spoke." Valkyrie Domination Chapter 4, Kill. Chapter 4 Kill. Qin Yueqi's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, "Mrs. Zhao, Chiner, he is still young. He is only impulsive and speechless. Please don't take it seriously." Madame Zhao coldly said, "Young. If I remember correctly, Qin Chen is almost 16 this year. I heard that at the awakening ceremony of the Star Academy not long ago, he still had no blood awakened. As a child of the Qin family, I don't know how to study hard and advance, and win honor for my Qin family, but in the academy, I fought with others, undermining my reputation of Dingwu Prince's mansion, and even letting go, bullying, and violating Qin's family rules. What crime should I be?" Qin Yueqi's figure shook, her face turned pale. "Madame Zhao is going to convict Chiner. You should be the one who should be the crime." Qin Chen's eyes were cold, and he raised his head to look at Zhao Feng. Facing the extremely powerful Madame Zhao of the Qin family, he calmly said, "You are the mistress of the Qin family, to indulge his servants, to insult the family disciples, is this what you call the Qin family rules? You." Madame Zhao did not expect that Qin Chen would dare to speak back, and couldn't help being furious. But before she had time to speak, she heard Qin Chen continue to shout angrily, "As a woman, you meet with Zhao Qirui, who is notorious and obscene in the royal capital, and gossiping together. Is this your female virtue?" Zhao Qirui, who had been watching the good show and staring at Qin Yueqi with squinting eyes, suddenly suffocated, his face flushed. "This little beast, why scold me?" Zhao Qirui scolded in his heart. "You." Madame Zhao pointed Qin Chen with her finger, her hairpin trembling with anger, and said angrily, "Zhao Qirui, it is my brother Wang." Mrs. Zhao's ancestors had some connections with the royal family, and she was also the prince. Zhao Feng called Zhao Qirui the king, but it was not an overstepping. "Okay, if you are brothers and sisters, meeting in private, it is an act of incest, and it is even more unbearable. As a lady bestowed by the court, you should be the representative of women in the world and act dignified. If this matter spreads, Qin, how does the family establish itself in Daqi country?" Qin Chen roared again and again, with cold light in his eyes. You little beast, you're talking nonsense, take him down for me." Madame Zhao couldn't bear it anymore, and shouted at the two guards. She was trembling with anger. If what Qin Chen said really came out of the Qin mansion, then she, the mistress of the Qin family, would continue to stay with the king. Hearing Madame Zhao's order, the two guards immediately roared and rushed towards Qin Chen, one left and the other right, and clamped him in the center. Qin Yueqi exclaimed and fought to stand in front of Qin Chen, and said angrily, "Who dared to move my Chiner?" One of the guards looked cold and said coldly, "Miss, I'm sorry." After speaking, he pushed with a big hand, trying to push Qin Yueqi away. However, before his hand touched Qin Yueqi's shoulder, suddenly, a sharp cold light passed, everyone only felt a flower in front of them, and the air in the room was cold. Immediately afterwards, there was a chuckle, blood suddenly appeared, the guard let out a miserable scream, half of his arm had been cut off by Qin Chen with a sword, and blood splashed all over the floor. In the severe pain, his figure retreated violently, but the long sword in Qin Chen's hand was like a meteor rushing to the moon, chasing after him. No matter how he dodges, the guard couldn't avoid it. He watched the sword tip with blood and pierced into it. He lost his heart, and his eyes were filled with endless fear. "Take out the sword, close the sword. All in one go." Puff! A burst of blood spurted from the guard's chest and rushed out 2 meters high. The guard was panicked and tried to cover the wound with his hand, but the blood was like a fountain, and he couldn't cover it no matter what. In the end, his eyes showed terrifying eyes, his body weakened and he fell down. I said, whoever dares to touch my mother, I will kill someone. Qin Chen said word by word. He was holding a long sword like a killer god, without even looking at the fallen guard. His voice was as cold as a demon from Joyo hell. The blood on the tip of the sword slowly dripped, and the room was silent, only the sound of blood dripping on the ground echoed. Madame Zhao, all these fierce guys were all stunned, like ducks with their necks pinched, at a loss. The people watching from a distance outside the door showed horror, and Rouge made their faces pale and trembling, and their hearts trembled. This little beast really dares to kill. As for the other guard, he only felt cold in his forehead, cold sweat, and stiff, afraid to move. He just remembered. Although this young master Qin Chen did not have his blood awakened, he was sure that he was admitted to the King's Sky Star Academy by his true ability. He was only 15 years old and was already a human-level warrior. In Tianwu continent, there are 9 levels of martial artists. Human level, earth level, heaven level, mysterious level, clan level, respect level, king level, emperor level and emperor level. Each level is divided into 3 levels, initial stage, middle stage and late stage. On the first floor, it feels like a great heaven to practice. Before the human level, there is actually a state of the coagulation phase. The so-called coagulation phase is to open up the meridians in the body. Only by opening up the 7 meridians can you condense the true energy and enter the human level. Therefore, the human level is already a real warrior. The most ordinary guards of them are basically in the middle and late stages of the human level. That's why he was killed by Qin Chen's sword. After a brief stupor, Mrs. Zhao was the first to recover, her face flushed, and her eyes shot incredibly vicious light. She really did not expect that Qin Chen, who had always been timid, would dare to commit murder in public. Not only her. Even Qin Yueqi was stunned, and his heart sank suddenly while shocked. Qin Chen, you are crazy, you dare to commit a crime in public, come and take him down for me, and deal with the family law, so as to be like you. Madame Zhao shouted sternly, her voice thunderous. Yes. The other guard immediately recovered. Song. He withdrew the war knife from his waist, staring at Qin Chen like wolves, and rushed forward fiercely. He slammed his feet on the ground and screamed, his figure resembling a cheetah, the sword in his hand turned into a cold light, and he slashed towards Qin Chen's arm. His sword is exactly one of the famous yellow-level sword techniques of the Qin family, the Flying Dragon Sword Technique, which is called Poisonous Dragon Spears. In the Tianwu continent, the ranks of martial arts are divided into 4 levels from high to low, heaven, earth, mysterious, and yellow. And each level is divided into upper, middle, and lower 3 levels, a total of 4 levels and 12 levels. Although the Flying Dragon Sword Technique is only a yellow-level sword technique, it is a yellow-level advanced sword technique. Among them, the poisonous dragon vomits the most insidious. The war sword is like a poisonous dragon spitting poisonous mist hunting, and the attack is vicious and extremely harsh. He even settled his attention and wanted to make a hole in Qin Chen's hand so as to give his dead brother a sigh of relief. Anyway, the order was from Madame Zhao, as long as he didn't kill Qin Chen, he would be punished at most. Valkyrie Domination Chapter 5, Ho Yi. Chapter 5. When everyone else saw this knife, except Qin Yueqi, their eyes flickered. This sword and tiger gave birth to wind, and the power was amazing. It did have a bit of skill, which made people feel cold. But Madame Zhao was still dissatisfied. She felt that the guard shot was too conservative. It should not be aimed at Qin Chen's arm, but his head. Even so, everyone seemed to see Qin Chen's blood all over, begging for mercy in pain. But... ding ding ding. The expected scene did not happen. Qin Chen's long sword suddenly burst into 3 cold lights in an instant, and then the voice of Jintijiani sounded. The guard had not had time to understand what had happened. He only felt that there was a flower in front of his eyes, his palm was numb, the handle of the knife in his hand was trembling, and the sword could hardly be held, and he almost broke out. He urged his vitality, and then he firmly held the sword in his hand. Then just prepared to fight back. In the next instant, a long sword full of cold light had already reached his throat. The cold touch, like death's sickle, controlled his life, making him feel chills, scalp numb, like a nightmare, and stiff body. In an instant, everyone around them stared at their own eyes, and could hardly believe their eyes. If it is said that the previous guard was succeeded by Qin Chen because of carelessness, then this guard had already made an all-out effort just now, but the result was still shocking. Even the guard really couldn't understand how Qin Chen, who was the only one in the early stage of human rank, blocked his poisonous dragon's message. Hold the cultivation base of the later stage of others, and have the upper hand. This little beast, unexpectedly. Madame Zhao's eyes were cold, and she was taken aback, and blurted out, "Qin Chen, you are so brave, you don't want to put down the sword." She was full of anger and awe-inspiring. At this time, she still had the power of Qin's mistress. "Let it go." Qin Chen grinned. Seeing a cold ray of light in his eyes, the long sword in his hand slammed and then pulled. "Master Chen, don't." Seeing this, the guard felt cold and hurriedly asked for mercy, but it was too late. Puff! A stream of blood was like a fountain, splattered from his neck and spilled all over the ground. The corpse fell to the ground feebly. "Want to kill me, but also want me to spare him?" Qin Chen always had a smile on his face, looking in the eyes of people, but making everyone cold, like a demon. For a while, the entire Qin mansion was silent. "And you?" Qin Chen turned his head to look at Zhao Qirui, his eyes narrowed slightly, like a wolf staring at its prey, and coldly said, "If you dare to beat my mother again, be careful, I can't help but kill." "About you?" Zhao Qirui's face suddenly showed anger, just about to get angry, but after seeing Qin Chen's eyes, a chill rose from the soles of his feet inexplicably, his face turned pale, and he could not speak for a while. He looked at Madame Zhao and snorted coldly, "Mrs. Zhao, is this what you called the negotiation?" Madame Zhao hurriedly explained, "Prince Qi, there is a misunderstanding in this, wait for me to explain it to you." Immediately afterwards, she stared at Qin Chen fiercely, trembling with anger, and the hairpin on her head couldn't help shaking, pointing to Qin Chen and said, okay, little beast, you have the courage, even Prince Qi dared to threaten." Her eyes were fierce like a snake, and she turned her head to look behind her. Many people outside the house heard the movement and rushed to see the lively servants, so they shrank their necks and quietly stepped back. In the end, she set her gaze on an old man who was always behind her, and said bitterly, "Qin Yong, what are you doing in a daze? You won't give me this little beast?" "Yes, ma'am." The old man named Qin Yong answered and walked out of the crowd. This person was wearing a secluded blue robe, his hands tucked behind the wide sleeves, his eyes were indifferent, but with a hint of cold air. He had been watching the situation in the room coldly before, and his expression had never changed. At this moment, after he walked out, everyone's eyes fell on him. Everyone's pupils shrank, including Qin Chen. From this person, he felt an extremely dangerous breath. "A prefecture-level master," Qin Chen said in a deep voice, his eyes colder than ever. "Master Chen, you are too much. The old slave doesn't want to do anything with you. Master Chen should still catch his hands. Obediently listen to his wife's hair." Qin Yong said lightly, staring at Qin Chen coldly with two emotionless eyes. Qin Chen's expression remained unchanged, and he smiled coldly, "If you want me to catch it, it depends on whether you have this ability. Only a prefecture-level master, if you fight to the death, it is not without resistance." Qin Yong frowned and said, "If this is the case, then the old slave has overstepped." When the words fell, Qin Yong's figure suddenly resembled a goshawk, and instantly threw out. In an instant, a terrifying wind swept the entire room, and Qin Yong closed his hands and grabbed Qin Chen instantly. This blow was several times stronger than the previous two guards. The strong aura suppressed Qin Chen's breathing difficulty, and his bones creaked. "Qin Yong, you dare to move the dust and try it." Qin Yueqi, who was always paying attention to his son's condition, rushed out at this moment and stopped in front of Qin Chen. But Qin Chen shook his figure before holding Qin Yueqi behind him again with the sword. His eyes were cold, and he just waited for Qin Yong's claws to fall, and he was about to violently move. Although the earth-level warrior was strong, he boasted that when the opponent hit him, he could kill him in one fell swoop. At first sight, Qin Yong's claws were only a few feet away from him. At this moment, a loud voice suddenly came from outside the house, shaking people's eardrums, "Stop it all." A middle-aged man wearing a brocade robe, purple cloud boots and a three-fingered gold-rimmed python belt at his waist walked into the house like a tiger. Qin Yong's claws stopped 1 foot above Qin Chen's head abruptly, and then hurriedly moved to the side, bending over respectfully. "Master Ho." Everyone in the room bowed and saluted and spoke respectfully. The visitor was Qin Chen's uncle, Anping, waiting for Qin Yuanhong. Madame Zhao hurriedly came to Qin Yuanhong's side and said angrily, "Master Ho, you are here just right. Today, this little beast is just the opposite. Not only did she kill 2 guards, she also dared to threaten Prince Qi. If you don't promote your home today, some people may be going to heaven." "Enough." Qin Yuanhong yelled coldly, his expression gloomy, and said, "Are you still not making enough noise?" "What?" Madame Zhao was startled, her small eyes were round, staring at Qin Yuanhong and said, "Master Ho, it's not that I'm making trouble, it's this little beast." Qin Yuanhong yelled angrily and said, "Shut up, little beast, is this your appearance as the mistress of the Qin clan? He is your nephew, if he is a beast, what is the Qin clan?" Madame Zhao's face flushed and she was trembling with anger. She wanted to refute, but seeing Qin Yuanhong's gloomy face, she immediately suffocated what she wanted to say. Seeing the patriarch's anger, the other servants all knelt on the ground, their faces pale and silent. Valkyrie Domination Chapter 6, Test. Chapter 6 Test. Then, Qin Yuanhong came to Zhao Qirui, who had an ugly face, and said, "Prince Qi, my Qin family is not strict in discipline, so you laughed." Zhao Qirui raised his eyebrows and snorted coldly, "Master Qin, your disciple from the Qin family just now threatened my life. I really want to see, how do you deal with Master Ho?" Qin Yuanhong nodded and said, "This matter, Qin will naturally give Prince Qi an explanation, but Prince Qi, you came to your house today to see her sister, and it seems not to be a good idea, right? Qin has important matters in the house. If you deal with it, Lord Qi will not be left. He is issuing an eviction order." Zhao Qirui's complexion changed, and his pale face became paler. After a few deep breaths, he seemed to be unable to bear the attack, but he suffocated the breath abruptly. He flicked his sleeves and said, "Master Qin is so big. The Majesty, I remember this thing today." He snorted coldly and left Qin Mansion with an ugly expression. Qin Yuanhong glanced at the people present and shouted coldly, "And you, do whatever you should do. Do you want to be punished by sticking here one by one?" Suddenly, a group of people stood up in panic and hurriedly withdrew from the courtyard. Even Madame Zhao led people out of here with a green face. Before leaving, she looked at Qin Chen and Qin Yueqi with bitter eyes. Not long after, only Qin Yuanhong and Qin Chen mother and son were left in the courtyard, as well as a few servants by Qin Yuanhong. "Qin Chen, you are so promising, you dare to kill people." Qin Yuanhong glanced at the 2 corpses on the ground with some surprise, and said to the people around him, "Dispose of the corpses, and their families, each go to 52 and tell them that their husbands have been loyal to my Qin family." "Yes, Patriarch." Several subordinates quickly processed the bodies of the 2 guards and moved them out. Qin Yuanhong stood there quietly, looking at Qin Yueqi, his eyes softened a little, and said, "Sanmei, are you still blaming Big Brother?" Hearing this third sister, Qin Yueqi's body trembled and her nose became sore. She pursed her lips, holding back her crying, and said calmly, "Master Ho, Qin Yueqi dare not." Qin Yuanhong sighed and said, "You also know that at the beginning, you went out with Qin Chen on your back and brought Qin Chen back. What a sensation in the capital city and how much influence it caused to our Qin family. As I Patriarch, there is no way. Qin Yueqi doesn't blame Master Ho, it's all Yueqi's own making." Qin Yueqi bit her lip. Seeing Qin Yueqi's stubborn expression, Qin Yuanhong couldn't help but waved his hand, his expression also gloomy, and said with excitement, "It's not enough to mention the past." Then, he turned his head to stare at Qin Chen, and said coldly, "I won't be held accountable for this matter today. There is still half a month, it is the big test of the Star Academy. You must work hard to cultivate before the big test. Complete the bloodline awakening so that the nobles of the royal capital will know that every child of my Qin family has the talent to become a strong man, not a waste. Qin Yuanhong said nothing, turned and left the house. The cold steel figure made Qin Chen's eyes cold. The noisy yard quickly quieted down, and everyone was gone, only Qin Chen and her son were left. Qin Yueqi's eyes were tightly locked, staring at the door, his face was blue and his eyes were cold. Qin Chen felt that Qin Yueqi's state was not right, and asked with concern, "Mother, what's wrong with you?" Only then did Qin Yueqi wake up, glanced at Qin Chen pitifully, and said, "Chener, mother is fine, you are hungry, take a rest first, mother will get you something to eat." With that said, Qin Yueqi came to the outer courtyard and started cooking. She, the eldest lady of the Qin mansion, did not make any moves and was quick to move. Obviously it was not the first time she did it. Within a moment, a bowl of steaming noodles was served. Arrived in front of Qin Chen. Qin Chen was also hungry. He who had just awakened, was naturally extremely weak after a fight, and immediately started to eat. As a human being reborn, Qin Chen couldn't help feeling like a world away after eating this hot and fragrant noodles. Qin Yueqi looked at Qin Chen lovingly, with a hint of hesitation flashing across her face, but finally gritted her teeth and said, "Chener, you are still too young. There are some things that my mother shouldn't tell you, but I have to tell you, I hope you can understand my mother." Qin Chen felt that there was something in Qin Yueqi's words, raised his head, and said, "Mother, what's the matter?" Qin Yueqi said, "Your uncle's official pays homage to the general and Feng Anping. He is an extremely hard-hearted man. He has strict rules and pays equal rewards and punishments. He didn't punish you today. It's not his style. Then you have to keep it in mind." Looking at Qin Yueqi's worried face, Qin Chen said indifferently, "Mother means that he put the child on the surface today, but he is actually waiting for the child to pass the college entrance examination. There will be more reasons to deal with the child." Qin Yueqi was taken aback, looked up at Qin Chen in surprise, and then suddenly smiled, "My Chener has really grown up." A cold light flashed in Qin Chen's eyes, and he smiled and said, "Mother, you don't have to worry, the child will definitely be able to awaken the blood and pass the college entrance examination." "Well, mother believes you." Qin Yueqi glanced at Qin Chen deeply and sighed slightly in her heart. In fact, she knew in her heart that Qin Chen was almost 16 years old, and it was almost impossible to awaken his blood. However, as a mother, all she can do is to encourage her children. For a moment, she resolutely said, "Chener, believe my mother, even if I don't stay at Qin's house, I can let our wife live." Qin Chen knew what Qin Yueqi was thinking. He didn't say much. He just nodded and said, "Mother, don't worry, even if you go out now, the child will be able to feed you, so that you won't be wronged anymore." He clenched his fists, his will is extremely firm, "Mother, you just wait for the child to surprise you, the child will never let you down." Valkyrie Domination Chapter 7, 9-Star God Emperor Ju. Chapter 7 9-Star God Emperor Art. In the most luxurious Z garden of the Qin family, the atmosphere is very solemn at this moment. Zhao Feng was wearing a colorful robe, holding a bright black cat in his arms, with cold eyes like a poisonous snake, sitting motionless. At this time, a maid with an extremely gorgeous face walked in and respectfully said, "Madam, Lord Ho is back." "I see." Zhao Feng said coldly, stood up, and walked outside the house. Qin Yuanhong was walking slowly into the hall. "Qin Yuanhong, what's the matter with you today? I even let go of that little beast, still in front of so many people, and swept Prince Qi's face. Tell me, what do you mean?" Zhao Feng said angrily. The Zhao family, the imperial clan, is also a famous family in the royal capital, so Zhao Feng and Qin Yuanhong are asking for sins, without fear. Qin Yuanhong frowned and said, "You ask me, I haven't asked you yet, what have you done in the mansion all day?" Zhao Feng said angrily, "What can I do? I don't want the Qin Yueqi to leave our Qin family. The little beast from the province will occupy my Qin family's property in the future. It is you who helped that little beast. I see you. Are you reluctant to leave your good sister? I know that you don't have a good thing in the Qin family. What nonsense are you talking about? Why am I talking nonsense? When the Qin Yueqi did such an indignant thing, instead of driving her away, your father kept their wives behind. Now that kid is also named Qin, he will definitely be a threat in the future. Feng'er's status and family property, isn't it right for me to say that? Zhao Feng sneered. Qin Yuanhong's face was pale, staring at Zhao Feng coldly, and said, "You also know that his father still remembers the third sister, so you dare to let Prince Qi come over today. You don't know the temper of your father, let him know what happened today. Who can keep you? Then let the little beast continue to stay in Qin's house." Zhao Feng's eyes were vicious, his chest rising and falling. "That's why I told you to be tolerant." Qin Yuanhong's eyes were cold, and he sneered, "Qin Chen has not even awakened his bloodline until now. This college exam will definitely fail the exam. Once he is expelled from the Sky Star Academy, as the head of the family, my husband has a reason to expel him from Qin's house. When the time comes, even my father will not be able to say anything. But you are fooling around at home all day, it's really a woman's opinion." Zhao Feng was startled, his eyes flashed, and said, "So you made this idea? Otherwise, what do you think? You are a woman, what else can you do besides bad things?" Qin Yuanhong snorted coldly, turned angrily, and walked into the house. "That's right, every disciple of the Qin family possesses unique skills. If the little beast fails the academy examination, he will be expelled by then, the old man has nothing to say." Zhao Feng was scolded, and instead of being angry, the corners of his mouth curled up. Meow. The black cat in her hand suddenly screamed in horror, and jumped to the ground, looking at her owner with fear and trembling. The hair on her body was erected like a hedgehog. In Madame Zhao's hand, a handful of cat hair was pulled out just now. The room was empty and cold. Qin Chen sat there quietly, frowning and thinking about the road ahead. 300 years of vicissitudes, whether it is to avenge Shengguan Xie and Feng Xiaoyu, or for his mother, he knows that he must become stronger and become a strong man who can control the Tianwu continent. The first step is to awaken the blood. To become a strong man, you must first awaken your blood. Qin Chen was 15 years old, and still couldn't awaken his blood. He has not yet awakened his blood after he was over 16 years old. In the words of Tianwu continent, he has missed the best age. Even if he awakens later, he will not achieve much. In the Tianwu continent, every person has blood in his body. If he is delayed in awakening, there are two reasons. One is that the natural blood is too thin to be awakened. The second is something wrong with the body. Unable to wake up. No matter which of the two causes, I have a solution. Let's take a look at the talent and foundation of this body. As an 8th-order bloodline emperor in his previous life, awakening bloodlines is not a problem for Qin Chen at all. Martial artists are among the top 3 in talent, understanding, and aptitude. Needless to say, understanding, otherwise there would be no such achievement in previous lives. But talent and aptitude are born with the body. The foundation of this body is pretty good, but there are many problems. After some investigation, Qin Chen knew exactly what was happening to him and frowned slightly. The predecessor of this body, with excellent martial arts talent, was admitted to the royal capital Tianqing Academy, opened up the 7 channels, and entered the human level. With this kind of talent, it's no problem to become an ordinary powerhouse, but to defeat Shengguan Xie and Feng Xiaoyu, it's still 1,000 miles away. Qin Chen was lost in thought. The foundation of a warrior is like building a house and building a foundation. It must be firm, otherwise no matter how you practice, problems will arise later. This body has just opened up the 7 basic veins, and hurriedly entered the human level. Although it has condensed a chi pool, it is not stable and has a small capacity. It seems that there is no problem now, but once it reaches a higher level, it will be troublesome. Will follow. Qin Chen felt the chi pool the size of a pigeon egg in his dantian, a little worried. Opening up the 7 channels is almost the weakest of the martial artists. Generally, only the weakest warriors will rush to condense the chi pool and enter the human level when only the 7 channels are opened. Among the top geniuses in the martial domain, which one did not choose to condense the qi if they had opened up the 8, 9, or even 10 meridians. Some of the most against the sky would even open up the 11 meridians. Qin Chen clearly remembered, Feng Xiaoyu and Shengguan Shi'er each opened up the 11 meridians, and in this life, if you want revenge, you must become stronger. With this kind of foundation, if I continue to practice, it will be difficult for me to return to my previous life. Even if I catch up later, I can't make progress in 100 feet. Moreover, with my current body, I have no way to cultivate the 9-star God Emperor. Tactics. The 9-star Divine Emperor art is a volume of ancient exercises Qin Chen obtained in the Forbidden Land in God's Forbidden Life, and it is also the strongest exercise he has ever obtained. The legend is handed down from the heavens. Heaven is a legend in the Tianwu continent. According to legend, the realm of Emperor Wutian of 9 heavens is not the end of martial arts. Above Emperor Wudi of 9 heavens, there is a more terrifying realm of Wushan, capable of breaking through the void and entering a higher world heaven. However, in the history of Tianwu continent for thousands of years, no one has broken through to the realm of martial god, so no one knows whether the heaven really exists. Originally, Qin Chen didn't believe this, but since entering the Forbidden Land, he completely changed his mind. Valkyrie Domination Chapter 8, Qidian. Chapter 8 Tool Palace. The God Forbidden Land far surpassed the level possessed by the Tianwu continent. Like the 9-star God Emperor Ju, before entering the God Forbidden Land, Qin Chen could hardly believe that there was such a magical technique in the world. Because the above stated that only those who have opened up the 12 meridians throughout the body during the coagulation phase are qualified to practice the 9-star God Emperor Ju. However, even though the human body possesses 12 meridians, if you want to do this during the coagulation phase, in Qin Chen's impression, in the entire Tianwu continent's tens of thousands of years of history, he has not heard of a case. Even the top genius of the martial arts in the previous life can only get through 11 meridians, which is already the limit. However, in this 9-star God Emperor Ju, how to open up the 12 meridians was recorded. When I got the 9-star Divine Emperor art in my previous life, I was already an 8th order martial emperor. It was long past the time to lay the foundation. Now that God has given me another chance, not practicing the 9-star Divine Emperor art is simply a waste of my rebirth. Back. Just. Now I have entered the human level cultivation base, the 7 meridians have been shaped, unless it is broken and then standing, otherwise it is impossible to get through the remaining meridians. Feng Xiaoyu and the others are eager to do it. I'm afraid it is also to obtain the treasures such as the 9-star God Emperor Ju, right? Qin Chen's eyes were as bright as stars. He pondered for a moment, opened the door, and walked out quickly. Mother, I want to go out for a while, and I will go back. Qin Chen and his mother greeted them and left Qin's house quickly. Be careful, Qin Yueqi said anxiously, don't cause trouble either. She didn't say this sentence, but prayed in her heart. Along the way, all the servants of the Qin family stepped aside when they met him, and even the guards at the gate of the Qin mansion looked strange and respectful. In front of Mrs. Zhao, Qin Chen's killing of the 2 guards had spread in the Qin mansion, and almost no one in Qin's mansion dared to underestimate this young master with a special identity. On the street. The king's capital was so lively that Qin Chen suddenly felt like a world away. He felt the plants and trees, each person and scene here, and couldn't help but indulge in it. Following his memory, he walked into an extremely lively street in the capital of the king, all the way in, and gradually reached the most prosperous street in the king of Daki. On both sides of the street, various magnificent and majestic shops stand upright. If you want to break and reconcile the meridians, you must rely on the Tianmai Shenzhen, and the materials for refining the Tianmai Shenzhen are very precious and can only be found in places where refiners gather. Qin Chen moved forward while thinking. Suddenly, a landmark-like building appeared in front of him. The building was 100 meters high and magnificent. It was located in a corner of the street and occupies an excellent location. At this moment, on the open space at the entrance of the shop, pedestrians are in an endless stream, and luxury carriages are parked. It can be seen that the guests entering this shop are either rich or expensive. Tool Palace. Qin Chen raised his head, saw the big gilt characters on the plaque at the entrance of the building, and stepped in. Qidian is one of the most powerful organizations in Tianwu continent, with an extremely long history, and it is said that it has been passed down from ancient times. In the Tianwu continent, organizations such as the Hall of Instruments, the Hall of Medicine Masters, and the Holy Land of Blood have strong strength, and even the top empires on the continent must be admired. Among them, the Hall of Artifacts is an organization that specializes in gathering all the artificers of the world. The professional appraisal, upgrade of the ranks, and the issuance of badges of all artisans of the world need to be completed in the Hall of Artifacts. Every city has a branch of Qidian. Chidu's Qidian is located in the king's capital of the entire Great Qi Kingdom. Its magnificence and hugeness are naturally unmatched by other branches. I wonder if there are any materials for refining the Tianmai Shenzhen. Walking into the device hall at will, a noisy sound suddenly entered Qin Chen's ears. The hall on the first floor of the Qidian is extremely wide, and all kinds of people shuttle through it, which is very lively. There is no guard here, but there is order. Welcome to the Palace of Equipment. May I ask this young man, is there anything I can help you? A woman in a brocade robe suddenly stood in front of Qin Chen and said with a smile. This person is young, his eyes are calm, and his aura is extraordinary. He is obviously the demeanor of a person accustomed to the world. He must not be the son of an ordinary noble family. Chen Yufei looked at Qin Chen and said inwardly. Qin Chen was taken aback for a moment, and then came back to his senses. Every time he went to the Wuyu Temple headquarters in his previous life, the major elders, deputy hall masters and others had already waited outside the door and welcomed him warmly. This kind of gentle and casual greeting made Qin Chen a little dazed. He smiled faintly. I want to buy these refining materials, don't know if you have them here. Qin Chen took a pen and paper and quickly wrote down a list of materials. Hand it forward. Chen Yufei pursed her ruddy cherry mouth and smiled. The sun is joking. Our tool hall is the place with the most refining materials in the Great Qi state. If there is no such place, you may not be able to find it after searching the entire Great Qi state. Chen Yufei smiled and took the order and looked at it carefully. When I saw this, my expression was startled, his eyes turned from curiosity to surprise, and he couldn't help but laugh. My son, you can't write something wrong, right? I've been in the hall for 4 or 5 years, you write and I have never heard of most of the materials. Chen Yufei's words caused Qin Chen's heart to sink immediately. What he didn't want to happen the most, he didn't expect it to happen. He knew that the artifact hall of the Great Qi Kingdom was relatively remote, so he changed several high-level materials that could refine the heavenly vessel divine needle to ordinary materials, but he didn't expect it. If he could not refine the heavenly made divine needle, he would not be able to break it and then stand, rebuild the Qi pool, and then cultivate the 9-star God Emperor Ju. Look at these kinds of materials again. Qin Chen wrote down several alternative materials and gave them to Chen Yufei. If you don't even have these kinds of materials, then things are in trouble. Hey, isn't this Brother Chen? I heard that you didn't awaken your bloodline at the Academy Awakening Conference last time. Why, I can't become a martial artist, and want to become a refiner. Suddenly a mocking voice came from the door, and a man and a woman walked from the door of the Hall of Equipment. The man was wearing a white robe, and he was quite suave. This man was Qin Chen's second brother and Zhao Feng's second son, Qin Fen. The woman who walked with Qin Fen was one of the 4 beauties of the royal capital, Zhao Lingshan, the daughter of Lord Kang. Zhao Lingshan wears a pink dress with a refined temperament. At the age of 16 or 17, her figure is extremely hot. Even if she is wearing a skirt, she can still feel her bumpy figure, which is very predictable. The white collarbone is like jade, attracting the eyes of everyone. Valkyrie Domination Chapter 9, Master Liang. Chapter 9 Master Liang. Hearing Qin Fen's words, Zhao Lingshan glanced at Qin Chen curiously, and said, Is this a disciple of your Qin family? Qin Fen smiled and said, Princess Lingshan, Qin Chen is actually my aunt's son, who is from my Qin family. His words are very cryptic, but Zhao Lingshan has already understood, and suddenly said, So he is the bastard. Zhao Lingshan glanced at Qin Chen again, her eyes showed a slight look of contempt. Qin Yueqi's deeds, from the royal capital to dignitaries, to the traffickers and pawns, are hardly unheard of. Qin Chen frowned slightly, ignoring the two of them. Qin Chen's ignorance caused Qin Fen, who wanted to show it in front of Zhao Lingshan, to get angry, and sneered, "Brother Chen, you can't even awaken your blood, and you want to come here to become a refiner. It's really overwhelming, here. Not where you should be." Qin Chen glanced at him coldly, feeling inexplicable, and said coldly, "Can you control it?" Qin Fen was taken aback, and his face suddenly became gloomy. This is the first time Qin Chen has spoken to him like this since he was a child. This guy used to be stubborn, but today he had the courage of the bear heart and leopard. Qin Fen hasn't returned to the mansion yet, so naturally he doesn't know what happened in the mansion today. He suddenly furiously said, "I came here to refine a treasure. What are you doing here again? You haven't even awakened your blood. You should stay at home honestly, come out to behave arrogantly, and simply lose the face of our Qin family. Believe it or not, this son will promote the family law for your father and break your legs." Qin Chen sneered at Qin Fen, then mocked, "Do you have that ability?" Hearing this, Qin Fen was startled slightly, and immediately laughed. He took a step forward, a rush of true energy flowed from his body, his robe disappeared automatically, and he smiled grinningly, "Brother Chen, the second brother hasn't taught you in a few days. You are growing hairy, right? Move muscles and bones." Qin Chen's eyes were calm, and he stood upright. There were more and more onlookers, and everyone could not help whispering. 2. This is the Palace of Qi, and private fights are strictly prohibited, otherwise, regardless of the reason, you will be severely punished by the Palace of Qi. The least will be expelled from the palace, and the more serious will be killed on the spot. Please don't make mistakes. When the two of them were about to break out, Chen Yufei felt the smell of gunpowder between the two, and hurriedly took a step forward and said loudly. Qin Fen's footsteps stopped before he came to his senses. He stared at Qin Chen coldly and hummed unwillingly, "You are lucky today." Qin Chen didn't bother to talk nonsense with him, turned his head and said to Chen Yufei, "Are there any of these kinds of materials?" "What material? Let me see." But seeing Qin Fen grabbing the list, he glanced disdainfully, and laughed suddenly, "Hee, I didn't expect Brother Chen, you have a good vision, and you actually know He Yao Mingshi, this thing is worth $1,000, so you can buy it too. Affordable? There are other materials, what a mess." Qin Chen suppressed the anger in his heart moved suddenly, and said, "Have you heard of the Black Yamingshi?" "That's natural." Qin Fen said proudly, "Second brother, I have not only heard of it, but also." As he said, he took out a black or the size of a thumb from his body, and said proudly, "This thing is the Black Yaming stone that my father bought at the Tongtian Pavilion auction the day before yesterday. Do you know how much this piece cost? 38,000 silver coins. Even if you lose your fortune, you can't afford a scrap." Qin Fen triumphantly held the He Yao Mingshi the size of his thumb, showing off around him, attracting enviable gazes around him. "I'm here this time, I'm going to ask the master of the pavilion to refine a tier 2 treasure for me. Then I will join this Black Yaming stone, which will be more powerful and kill you like a dog." Qin Fen laughed. Qin Chen didn't take it seriously. He didn't bother to pay attention to this kind of verbal contention, and he was thinking about how to take this Black Yamingshi. "Meet Master Liang Yu." At the door, a middle-aged man wearing a refining master's robe walked into the hall, with his head held high in his 30s, with an extremely proud expression. Everyone in the hall saluted respectfully, with a trace of reverence on their faces. "It's actually Liang Yu, did you hear that? Liang Yu just passed the second-tier refiner's assessment a few days ago and became a second-tier refiner. A tier 2 refiner in his 30s, Master Liang Yu is really talented and has a boundless future. In my opinion, with the talent of Master Liang Yu, it is just around the corner to enter the tier 3 refiner in the future." Tier 3 refiner, thinking about it is awesome. Alas, if I were a refiner, it would be fine. Just you. What a craftsman needs is amazing talent and strong mental power. Both are indispensable. I think you should forget it. The people around were talking and amazed. Qin Chen looked up and his eyes fell on the badge on Liang Yu's chest. Next to the hammer, there were 2 silver threads lingering, indicating the identity of this person's second-order crafting master. With this badge, no matter where you go to Tianwu continent, you can get corresponding treatment in the Hall of Equipment. The rank division of the refiner is the same as the martial artist, divided into 9 ranks, and the honorific title of each rank corresponds to the martial artist. The second-order refiner is the prefecture level. In his previous life, Qin Chen was a 9th-order emperor-level craftsman, and at the same time the honorary elder of the palace. He knew these things very well. He raised his head, his gaze fell on Liang Yu's face, suddenly startled slightly, as if he had discovered something, his brows frowned slightly. But seeing Liang Yu coming all the way, he soon came to Qin Chen and the others. "Master Liang." Chen Yufei looked solemn and hurriedly saluted respectfully. Liang Yu nodded when she saw her, his gaze fell on the black Yaming stone in Qin Fen's hand, his gaze narrowed slightly. "Master Liang, in Xia Qin Fen, waiting for the second son in Anping, I would like to ask Master Liang to refine a Tier 2 precious soldier with the black Yaming stone." Qin Fen hurried forward. Liang Yu asked, "What do you want to refine?" Qin Fen was overjoyed and said, "A 3-foot sharp sword." Liang Yu nodded and said, "Black Yaming stone is a Tier 3 top refiner material. It is cold in nature and can increase the sharpness and strength of the sword. At the same time, it has its own ice attribute. Unfortunately, it is refined into Tier 2 treasure. The soldiers are too wasteful. My father said, regardless of the success or failure of this refining, the remaining black Yaming stone will be handled by Master Liang." Qin Fen said quickly. Liang Yu pondered for a while and said, "Okay, I'll take it." Along the way, many people begged him for refinement, and this was the first one he took. Qin Fen immediately became excited, and hurriedly presented a silver card, saying, "Master Liang, there are 20,000 silver coins here, half of which is the cost of materials, generally the cost of refining." Liang Yu took the silver card and nodded slightly. Valkyrie Domination Chapter 10, Your name is Liang Yu. Chapter 10 Your name is Liang Yu. Master Liang, Junior Zhao Lingshan, and my father Zhao Jing, this is a letter from my father. Zhao Lingshan carefully took out a letter and handed it to Liang Yu, all the previous arrogance, all restrained. It turned out to be Princess Lingshan. Liang Yu opened the letter, read it carefully, and looked up at Zhao Lingshan twice, and said, "I have some friendship with Lord Kong. Lord Kong said in the letter that you want to be my disciple. Yes, the junior really wants to be a refiner. I accept disciples. I always don't ask about your identity, but only about your talents. If you are not qualified, even if you are the daughter of Lord Kong, I will not accept it. Junior knows." Zhao Lingshan nervously said, "A Tier 2 refiner does have arrogant capital. Well, you come with me." Liang Yu nodded, Zhao Lingshan hurriedly followed behind him, and Qin Fen followed all the way. Qin Chen thought for a while, and walked over slowly. Chen Yufei said to the rest of the onlookers, "Master Liang just said that those who need to find him to refine the treasure can write down the things that need to be refined and the price paid, and Master Liang will choose the list he wants to refine." As soon as Chen Yufei's voice fell, in an instant, countless guests gathered around, and the scene was like a vegetable market. In a secluded room on the side of the Hall of Qidian, Liang Yu brought Zhao Lingshan into it. "What are you doing with you?" Qin Fen couldn't help frowning when he saw Qin Chen behind him. "Quiet." Liang Yu glanced at him dissatisfied, and Qin Fen shuddered in fright, immediately closed his mouth and gave Qin Chen a vicious look. "Liang Yudao, if you want to become a craftsman, the most important thing is spiritual talent. Only strong spiritual power can engrave various inscriptions, runes and formation patterns in the treasures, so that ordinary weapons can become one. Bing bao bing. In other words, strong mental power is the basis for becoming a craftsman. Prince Kong said in the letter that you have been practicing martial arts for a long time. At the age of 16, you are already a master at the later stage of the human level. Your awakened bloodline is also a third-grade bloodline. So in terms of talent, I will not test you again, only you after the mental power level. I promise to accept you as a disciple." Qin Chen glanced at Zhao Lingshan in surprise, and narrowed her eyes slightly. This woman is not only an immortal, attractive posture, and her cultivation level is also staggering. She is a 16-year-old master of the advanced stage, and the awakening is actually a third-tier bloodline. Qin Chen was 15 this year, and he was also a warrior at the early stage of the human level, so he was already called a genius. Zhao Lingshan was only 1 year older than him, but he was 2 levels stronger than him, and his talent was even higher than him. What's more, she also awakened the 3rd-grade bloodline. The bloodline is inherited in ancient times, and the strength is different. Therefore, in order to make it easy to divide, the bloodline masters divided all the bloodlines in the world into 9 ranks, with the lowest rank and the highest rank. The 3rd-rank bloodline is already extremely rare in a small place like the Great Qi State, and 1 in a million. Hearing Liang Yu affirmed his talent, Zhao Lingshan showed a hint of pride. In fact, the reason why she is known as one of the top 10 beauties in the capital is because she is very beautiful and has amazing martial arts talents. In Tianwu continent, martial arts are respected. Even if a woman is beautiful, if she does not have a strong martial arts talent, she will not attract people's attention. Liang Yu frowned and said, "You can test your mental power quickly." Zhao Lingshan reacted to her situation and hurriedly reduced her expression, followed Liang Yu to a gray stone pillar in the room. "Put your mental power into the stone pillar in front of you." "Yes." Zhao Lingshan's white and slender jade hand was like green onion roots, gently resting on the stone pillars in front of him, continuously injecting spiritual power into the gray stone pillars. Wow! On the surface of the gray stone pillar, a milky white light quickly lit up, slowly rising upward. With Zhao Lingshan's continuous input of mental power, the white light slowly rose, and finally stopped at the below the first scale, and stopped. "The first-order mental strength is not enough, let go," Liang Yu said in a flat tone. Zhao Lingshan released her right hand and looked at Liang Yu nervously. The level of cultivation in the later stage of the human level, the mental power of less than the first level, is not bad. Liang Yu nodded. "Next, test the mental power talent, this is the most important." Liang Yu took Zhao Lingshan to a transparent crystal and said, "Incorporate your perception into this spiritual crystal, arouse the spiritual power inside, and let me see your spiritual talent." Zhao Lingshan took a deep breath, her expression was slightly nervous, and then she reached the transparent crystal and put her hands up. Then, she closed her eyes and began to arouse the mental power in it. OM. A ripple suddenly appeared on the transparent spiritual crystal, and a red halo suddenly rose up, making the entire room a gorgeous red. Immediately afterwards, the crimson slowly changed, turning orange again, and then changing from orange to yellow. But in the end, it didn't turn yellow and stayed in orange. The faint orange light set off Zhao Lingshan's brilliance, like a deity. Orange talent. Liang Yu's expression was startled, a hint of light flashed in his eyes, revealing the color of joy. Qin Chen's eyes narrowed slightly, and the spiritual crystal tested not the strength of a person's spiritual power, but the person's spiritual talent. The spiritual talent is divided into 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. The later the color, the higher the spiritual talent. A crafting genius, as long as he has a high spiritual talent, even if his mental strength is 0 at the beginning, he can reach a very high level of mental strength after cultivation and promotion, and become a powerful craftsman. On the contrary, even if the current mental power is strong, without sufficient mental power talent, it can only stay in the current state and cannot continue to improve. Zhao Lingshan's orange mental talent is excellent. In the future, he only needs to work hard to become a Tier 2 refiner. Even a Tier 3 refiner is not without hope. "Master Liang, did I pass?" Zhao Lingshan looked at Liang Yu and said nervously. Liang Yu smiled and said, "Passed, you will be my 9th disciple of Liang Yu from today." Zhao Lingshan was overjoyed, and quickly bowed and said, "The disciple sees the teacher. Congratulations to Princess Lingshan, you succeeded in apprenticeship." Qin Fan clenched his hands and screamed in excitement. He looked excited, as if it was himself who succeeded. "Thank you, young Master Qin Fan, for accompanying me to the Hall of Instruments." Zhao Lingshan smiled slightly. Qin Fan's heart was as sweet as eating honey, and he laughed and said, "Princess Lingshan is polite. It is my honor for Qin Fan to be with Princess Lingshan." Liang Yu watched the two chatting for a few words, and then faintly said, "Okay, the gossip is over, you two can go. Lingshan, you come with me." After speaking, he took Zhao Lingshan into the hall. Your name is Liang Yu. Qin Chen touched his nose at this time, and suddenly spoke. Liang Yu stopped, frowning, and a look of anger flashed across his face. Since he became a craftsman, he has rarely heard such direct calls. Even those high-ranking officials in the capital did not dare to do so. Call him.